Okay, so we're recording now.
Cool. So you're obviously familiar with Helm and what it does. There's just some backstory, and we can go as fast, or you can just skip forward. But Helm 2 has been around for a while. Has a number of design flaws that have really become pain points uh, over the last year and a half. Some like the biggest one is just the tiller model, where you have to get to deploy a long running service in your cluster, which then has full permissions to whatever you want. Um, and sort of and the challenge, of course, is that previously there was no authentication for it. And so if you had access to the cluster and you had tiller installed, you had whatever permissions tiller had, which was everything.
Oh.
Um, and so yeah, it just didn't play well with the new RBAC model. And then the answer was like, okay, well, do you want to have like tiller act as certain users? And like, it doesn't make, and the real answer is there's no reason for the tiller service to be running at all times. Just there's none. It doesn't take any action at any time if you aren't actively talking to the service.
And is that on is that on Helm charts in general, or is that in our sort of how we handle it?
Helm charts in general, yeah. So the Helm 2 model is you have Helm CLI on your machine, and then you have tiller running in the server. And your Helm CLI would talk to the tiller service, and the tiller service then go do things.
I see.
And the answer is there's just no, like, operators will fill the gap of stuff happening like automatically in Kubernetes, if you've heard of operators. So like that like control plane for deployed software management layer will be done by operators. So you can see like we're making an operator for upgrade work. And so you can kick off an upgrade, and the operator will sit there and kind of watch the various bits go through, kind of act as like the like Marshall be like, okay, we're gonna start rolling the pre-upgrade migrations, right? And roll migration, and then it'll start rolling the unicorn pods to get updated, and then once those are done, it'll then run the post migration. It'll kind of like coordinate the whole process, right, to make sure you have a successful upgrade with no impact.
How do they know
Um,
how to do that? How do they know to which steps to go through? You specify that as part of the operator.
you build your own operator. It's actually code that you would write. So GitLab is building code to sort of oversee this process.
Okay.
Um, and so like the operator is taking over that section of work. And so tiller is just really like deploy this thing. You know what I mean? And there's no reason for it to exist, really. Like your Helm CLI can actually run the tiller process locally, and it runs as you. So whatever rights you have, it just goes out and does the things, right? So it does maintain some state, but obviously your local Helm can just talk to the cluster and read and write the config maps or secrets, depending on the backing storage you choose. And so then it's just a matter of, just having access in your machine. And so so that was one of the problems with Helm 2, that like probably the biggest one. There's other niggles as well, but Helm 3 was like a major redesign. It's been a long time coming. They're killing off tiller, going fully local and the local CLI. There's other changes too. They're adding like a Lua scripting engine. I don't know if I totally get the Lua scripting engine, although Go templating can be quite frustrating to work with. The other major change is that previous in Helm 2, they had a relatively simple like repository model. So like you basically like they would maintain a repository on the shared GitHub repository. So they did an official repository, and like some poor set of people were responsible for reviewing PRs to all the charts, and there was like 100 of them. And
Wow.
it was becoming just unmaintainable because, of course, it's a huge time suck to review all these things. They tried to make it so that if you owned your chart, you could submit PRs to your own chart. But eventually they were just like, we're not going to do it anymore. We're going to have a new model where you can discover other chart repositories, And then you just make it easier to just add them and find them and search for them, right? So if you've heard of like Monocular, sort of like what the Monocular thing is doing, which is like basically it's a set of well-known repositories which it then goes out and searches for. So like you go to this website and then you search for like GitLab and it'd be like, oh, there's a GitLab repository. Go add it, and then you can go add it and then whatever.
I see. So is
So
Docker Hub kind of like it's similar to Docker Hub in the sense that it's this shared location where people post and share common images, but instead of images, it's Helm charts and including the operators.
yeah, so it's literally, they rebranded it to be Helm Hub. So like, I'll share it here in Zoom, because then they could potentially get in the recording, I think, by text. But you can see it there. This is really just a Monocular project that's been renamed. But if you search for GitLab, you will get the GitLab Helm chart and the runner and things like that. Oh, interesting. Someone else is running a GitLab Helm chart.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's two.
Whoa. Well, there you go. So yeah, you have the GitLab one, then you have the GitLab runner, and so you can sort of see how to add the repository and set the Helm chart and go from there. So the going to decentralized model, the backend storage for running your own repository is really simple. For some context, we actually maintain our own GitLab pages-based repository. So if you look here, this is the project within GitLab that just runs CI and goes and gets the other chart projects and just publishes a GitLab pages repository, because it's just static file content at the end of the day for a Helm repository, at least a Helm v2 repository. And so like it's pretty darn simple.
Nice.
So that's that. However, in Helm v3, they're changing the security, they're changing the repo model to be based on the Docker registry, and more specifically Docker distribution. So if you look at the tail end of this issue here, I made the note that you can see a little link to the Helm 3 part 3 preview. You can see a little discussion around the last one was, of course, saying goodbye to Tiller, and they're saying gentle goodbye, but I'm pretty sure everyone wants to set that thing on fire. And this one is discussing the new chart repository. So basically, it was pretty simple. It's a relationship server with an index EM on some package charts, and now they're setting that basically because it's so simple, and because Docker distribution has pretty much supported like some pretty simple file storage, you can just reuse that. And since everyone has a registry, why not just use that for the backend and make it really easy? And so you can kind of see another deep dive here for Bacon Gobbler, apparently, is the blog post name, Matt Fisher. And you can see them talking more detail about exactly how this all works and using the CLI and things like that.
Is that in?
It's linked from that one.
From preview. Your comment, I see that.
Yeah. So here's the other one. So you can go to Helm 3 preview. Helm part 3 preview has a relatively high-level value prop discussion and backstory. And then if you go to the link to that Bacon Gobbler thing, you can see that this person, I think, is a developer on project.
This is very helpful. Yeah, this is great. And so Microsoft basically they just did this instead of building a Helm charts integration. They just put it into their container registry, like what you're proposing.
Yeah, so I think they were like, look, if you scroll down, you can see 3 people from Microsoft were involved in this idea. So I think they were like, why do we need another thing for managing simple file structures? Like it already exists with Docker. Can we just reuse that? So it seems like they were involved if you look at the big thank you towards the bottom of it. So they were potentially involved pretty early on. I'm not sure to what degree. And yeah, so I think they made the call. I'm not sure if they support Helm v2 repositories like Chart Museum and things like that. I don't know, but certainly Helm v3 they're jumping in early. There's a Helm 3 alpha that came out two months ago, 3 months ago, like the very first version. As far as I know, there's no official timeline for like to go GA. But yeah, that's the general plan for Helm. And so it's sort of like, do you really want to build something to support like the old version? Oh, here you go. Yeah, so here, right here, looking forward, they've already confirmed this works with Azure Container Registry and Docker Distribution 2.7 plus.
Wow.
So,
okay.
I bet you it will just work for us as well. We just need to test it because we, as you probably know, base our registry on Docker Distribution.
Yeah.
And we are running. I recall from the distribution team, we have jumped up to 2.7, I believe.
That's true.
And so we should just work, provided our little authentication layer, which is just basically just integrating with the Docker distribution APIs for handing off authentication. I think it's all to be supported.
Right, unless, yeah, like you said, unless there's a weird authentication where they're expecting something that we don't support, or you can't do it with CI job token or something like that.
We have had a couple problems with that. There's an issue where cross project references weren't or multiple. There's some bug like where we weren't handing back or supporting a feature where you could like multiple scopes. So yeah, so like we fixed it. Just as a simple. We found this when working with Kaneko, where Kaneko was expecting this feature to work. It didn't work, and we had to go fix it. So here is the issue. So just saying, like, there is some backstory, like some potential reason for, determining that like our authentication could potentially screw things up, but usually it's a relatively simple fix. So,
okay. And you mentioned you're familiar with this because you've been working with an internal team using Helm charts recently, right?
Yeah, so I was the PM for distribution for like a year and a half, and so got to have a lot of hands-on experience with Helm, and so wasn't involved in sort of a lot of the Helm work and like a lot of the customer frustration around Tiller, or they don't want to use it, and then there's this plugin you can use to run Tiller locally, and so I basically like we've been following the Helm 3 like evolution for a long time. And so that's kind of why I knew about the upcoming changes.
I'm wondering if I can work with the distribution team to get them to try this, like if we have some guidance over here's how you could do it, could you try and see if it works? And if so, maybe we can have an article that we just post or blog post that says you can now use Helm Charts 3 with Alpha with the container registry, and this is how we're going to approach supporting Helm charts.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think you could definitely work with them. I think that I had an effort to try to. I think I opened up a Helm 3. Let me go look and see if I opened up a Helm 3 one. It might be interesting to just try Helm 3 with the new chart for GitLab, just to understand like, does it work? Does it not work with our current chart? Of course, our issue searching isn't really super awesome. I could have sworn I opened up a Helm v3. I can't find it, but yeah, I would ping like maybe DJ or the new distribution engineering manager, or maybe just Eric, who's the. Oh yes, here's someone on my own. Oh, GitLab and Kubernetes. Here's someone who tried Helm v3. They had a problem with it. Oh, okay. Helm v3, apparently they've announced that, wow, from Microsoft. Since when is Microsoft? I guess Microsoft is driving Helm
It seems like it.
Helm now? Yeah. So apparently, Helm Summit EU is in September, and and they're hoping to have it be GA for that conference.
Okay, that's very good to know too.
Um, so this is P2 is a whole label for Helm 3. So here's the Helm 3 label, just to give you a sense of what it looks like. So maybe like we could try and time these things together. Like as practicing Helm 3, like try and make sure that we support it for both our Helm chart, our own Helm charts for GitLab, but also making sure that our container registry can support it as well.
Right, and make sure that we support it before that conference in September, because Microsoft and GitHub are probably going to announce something in September for sure. So if we could have a fast follow or something that comes out before that, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm hoping it before. Like, yeah, I'm not sure how much news like Helm is going to generate really, because I think even in the Kubernetes community, everyone kind of has like a love-hate relationship with it, where it's great in the sense that it's something, but there's a bunch of like identified problems with it.
Right.
And so everyone's like, just you use it because it's like sort of nothing else has really got momentum behind it. But at the same time, it's sort of like, like it's a lot of problems with the Helm.
Okay. Yeah, because I saw from the cab, and I remember you put in, should we integrate Helm? And I saw some comments in there that were like, no one's using Helm, it's old hat. And then I heard other people say, oh no, it's great, we would love Helm support. So I'm trying to balance for now. I think my priorities are, I'm trying to fix NPM, the authentication issues that we have in subgroups. And then the big thing is the container registry, trying to work on storage optimization, retention and expiration policies, and then improving the UI. But then maybe the Helm stuff can be done separately, like if it is just like documenting how we could solve it and how we integrate it with it, then no development work needs to get done. That would be great.
Yeah, I imagine it will probably just work. And if it doesn't just work, it'll probably be a relatively simple fix. Maybe Camille can help out since he's the most knowledgeable about all the Helm work. And obviously you saw his work on the API and things like that for cleaning the registry and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, my sense is it would be better to support this stuff before it goes GA. If we possibly can, because then somebody be like, well, you guys are all about Kubernetes and you knew about this months ago. So what happened?
No, that's a really good point.
But I mean, it's again, like to your point though, it's a lot more people are using the registry than will be using Helm. That said, also like the registry works. It just has some rough edges that need improvement.
Yeah, exactly. That's where my head's at, trying to figure out. Just started a user research task to figure out how big of a problem is it for people that they can't manage their storage, and that they can't, like, we can't make any real UI improvements because we're not storing the data right now for the container registry. So we can't do things like pagination and sorting, and maybe those things aren't important and we could move on and work on just integrating more package managers. But since so many people use it and it's a big problem for us, the storage management, maybe we can do some work to solve that, since it's the most adopted. What do you think?
So my general sense is people like it, mostly works. There are some really problematic workflows, and my sense is you should probably just fix them, like the delete button, right? Like put up a modal that makes it like just extremely clear, like what will happen, since it is misleading. And then the space thing we have to solve. I think Camille did a lot of good work to lay the foundation for doing that.
Right.
And I think Yeah, I think probably should do that sooner than later. So
Okay.
I would definitely treat that one pretty high. NPM is also pretty high. That's a stickier one, although it sounds like someone had a pretty good solution for resolving conflicts between the two types of tokens
Yeah.
because they're formatted differently. That's a little hackish because if the format ever changes, then of course stuff will break. Um, but if it's a point solution that helps us get there, that's good. Because otherwise, like rewriting all of our stuff to have a unified walk token, which will be a great idea, that's a pretty long project. So it's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
feel like it'll never get done. And for NPM, we have such negative customer sentiment about people who can't use it, and get a lot of complaints. And I think if we
for
can
good
solve,
reason.
yeah, for good reason. It's minimal, but as far minimal as as we can have. But if we can just get it to where Maven is at, people seem generally happy with our Maven integration. There's
Yeah,
suggested improvements, but it's not like people are complaining all the time.
yeah. I mean, it's rough for Maven. I mean, there's stuff we could do to improve it, right? But it works. Whereas with NPM, like um, it's really quite painful to get up and running, right?
Right.
So um,
Did you ever think
you
about
know,
using any kind of templates, like rather than, so basically when you go into the registry page, you could land and you could say, I want to set up a Maven integration, and you click on a tile and it would generate some of those like CI settings file for you. It could generate your
yeah,
POM XML file.
yeah. I have an issue for exactly that, I believe. Uh, it would be in C. It would be in EE. Um, it'd be opened by me in regards to Maven. Yeah. So here,
Oops.
um, this guy.
Daniel's joining for our next meeting.
Oh, hey.
He's always early. Daniel, have you met Josh yet?
Uh, Josh and I have come in contact. I think it was at Contribute.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm hanging out in the
Um,
mountains, bro.
yeah, it's awesome.
I'm going to let you
Um,
finish your meeting though, so apologies.
yeah, we'll try and wrap it up. So this is ones I thought about it. Basically, I think you actually marked it as related, but like we should be able to just pre-create a lot of this stuff for you,
Right.
um, either in the interface or just to actually maybe just get like generate a file, right? Have a button to just like add a file to the repo um,
I like that
to create
idea.
these things for you.
That's probably even a better MVC, is just generate the file and then you can get to the point that you're doing something through some UI.
Yeah, my initial thought was just like have the necessary snippet, like just on the like settings page or like on the Maven like repository page, and that way you can just cut and paste and get on your way and chuck it in. Because I think one thing is I forget which one of these two. I think it's the POM, or there's two. Like there's one like where you could use it as a dependency. There's one where you're publishing to it, and I forget which one is which. But like you probably want to have easy ways to do both. And I think the one where you're kind of consuming it, you have a lot of those things in there. And so,
Right. Yeah, the
but
POM has like the where you're posting it to, like your external registry, and the settings is more like that's lives on your local machine, and then you would replace that with the CI settings file if you're going to use CI. But I think
yeah,
that's a great idea. I think we could do something to ease the case for our users, but
yeah. Um, so what other thing? Um, oh, one other thing I think for like the dependency proxy and things like that, that I think is important to think about. Not in the near term. Well, near term, I think, but not like more important than sort of fixing up NPM. And I realize we're at time, which rolls real fast, is making it more relevant for .com, but it depends actually in particular, because I discussed with DZ about this, which is like, regardless of whether you're self-managed or .com and you're deploying to Kubernetes, you're gonna want a dependency proxy in your cluster.
right.
You're not gonna want to pull over the internet to your on-premise instance or to .com. Like it's going to introduce latency, it's going to introduce costs, introduce failure points. And so you're going to want to like sort of stamp out some of these caching services, right? Like on the local network where your runners are, on the local network where you're running in production, things like that, right? To try and reduce some of the costs and time. And so users like, it'd be great to have a Go module, but I don't know Go. We have to recreate the authentication, which we can reuse if we use the GitLab. And so since the MVC, we got started that way. But that might be one thing, something to think about, which is like, is there an easy way to try and, short of GitLab Geo?
That's what I was went to originally. I was like, is Geo the way to do that?
It can't be. It's like a next iteration, right? Now Geo is not going to work for .com. You can't set up your own Geo cluster of .com.
I see.
But anyways, that's it. So we can wrap. Sorry for going a little bit late there.
No, thank you.
But that's one I can think about.